101. So you talk about the differences between the early and the late. A bunch of the different things for adjustments. They really are a good braking system when they're set up right. Not a lot of mechanics nowadays know what they're doing with them or what to look for.
We stayed to play for you.
And
What year are you going to start with?
I'll start with the early ones.
Which is around.
Yeah, I didn't have another backup plate for the rears, but this is 57 to mid 59. Mid 59, they made a change. This is what they call them two platform, but there's only really one that rests on this ear here. These had a thinner backing plate or adjusting plate than the 59.5 to 61s did. So these wheel cylinders don't interchange between the two year groups.
So was the 59.5 a newer, a better system?
Yeah. Yeah, this is
Will that fit on a 57 or 8?
the whole thing will.
Okay,
Well, you gotta change everything.
right.
This is 59.5. The early ones have these little butterfly looking retainers to hold the shoes down. And these ones have the more common ones you see on the later brakes with the Bendix style brakes that came out in '63. On the 57 to 9 fronts. And this would be a right front. They basically sit like that on the car. So you've got two wheel cylinders, one on each end. This one's pushing this way against wheel rotation. This one's pushing this way. So you got two leading shoes basically. So you got a good contact. And they also have, the springs are attached to the web on the early ones, and they're 4-coil. Oh, and we're only talking 12-inch brakes in, because that's what all the three others had on. 11-inch brakes may be a little different. I don't really know those that well. They come apart fairly easy. It's just got this little clip. They go back together a lot harder than they come apart. And this rests in a little locating hole there. It's got a little tab on the end. They put it in there, and you've got to hold that with a pair of pliers or vice grips and push it down at the same time while you're trying to lock it into place. Yeah, you really need help with that.
Now, Don, on the 61, does the spring go to the top of the thing or in the hole?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
You're jumping ahead of the game here. They give you special tools to take these apart. Well, according to the book, it has this list of special tools. All you need is a good strong awl. Because you're just basically levering these things off. They're going to pop when they go. But
Is it easier to pop off the bottom one closest with the one on top? Easier to when you're popping it.
well, you can't get this one off because of the location, because of the way it's hooked into there. It's much easier to pop it off on this end. On this style, you pop it off at the outer because they hook to the outer edge of the shoe. Piece that the spring connects to. This goes from here, it goes all the way down to here. it moves with the adjuster. This one ain't too tight. No, not too bad. See how much further it can come out that way. If it's in the right position, because this is a cam, it's oblong. That's what pulls the shoe in and out when you're adjusting it to the drums. If this is out all the way and you hook, and you try to hook it up to the shoe, there's a possibility this can pull out from under this cam. So when you're adjusting them, you always want it to be adjusted all the way in when you're putting the springs on. At least like that. Some of them can get close enough so that they actually bind it. Not this one, but some of them do. Where the shoe rides on this style is just this one flat area. That's what this one tab rides on. So it sits in there like so. And you can see actually see the flat on the back side. '56 is all by itself. '56 does not have that flat at all. It just relies on the slot being lined up by the groove in the adjusting plate. When they came out, they probably had their own shoes of their own. But if you want to use the late shoes on, all you do is grind the tab off. If you don't grind the tab off, the way this backer plate is situated, it comes up on an angle and it pushes the shoe up on an angle. So you can't adjust it properly. You'll never get a good pedal out of it.
What year is that assembly from?
This is '57. Since I left the wrench out to take the wheel cylinders off, I guess I'm leaving them on.
And 58 would be the same as that?
57, 8, and halfway through 59 was when they changed things.
Okay.
Is the front brake support thinner on the front as well? Is it thinner like the back one is? Because they have different wheel cylinders on the front of those ones?
So for the next feed, I'm getting hearing aids.
Is the support, for the adjuster support, is it actually thinner on the front as well as the back? And do they require different
Front
wheel
support is
cylinders?
different because the back wheel cylinders are only have one wheel cylinder.
They're different obviously to each other, but what I mean is, do they require only those years wheel cylinders?
Yes.
And they also change, so all the wheel cylinders on a 57 to 9 differ from the 60 to 61.
57 to 9s are the same,
Yep.
but the 60, what I was saying earlier, this plate, I think it's 5/16 on the early ones, it's 3/8 on the later ones.
Okay.
So the early wheel cylinders will not fit on the later ones.
And that support is also the same?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the two that I'm working with now are both early ones.
Yeah. No worries.
When you order the wheel cylinders, is it hard to know what those thicknesses are? If you're ordering the wheel cylinders, or does that pick it up?
They list them by year,
Okay,
but you gotta know what you're looking at, because you know how listings are.
yep.
They're not always right.
Is there different part numbers to that, Don?
I don't have that kind of thing memorized.
Just say yes.
Yeah. I know people that do memorize part numbers, but I'm not one of them. Getting them back on can be a little tricky.
Oh, yeah.
Generally, you can, I can't stand it up and do this because I gotta have two hands. hook the end of the awl into the retainer. And sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. It takes practice.
Yeah, you can do mine.
This is what I should have brought my glasses for. These are much easier. I'm gonna leave this one alone just so it can pour the crap out of everybody. Now those are the fronts on the 57 to 9s. These are the rears on the 57 to 9s. And if you notice there's only 4 coils on the front ones. And you've got one arm is longer than the other. That's the one that fits over the brake shoe web. And what I have here, these are not readily available. They might have been back in the day when brake shops are doing these kind of things on a daily basis. But if they're not rusty and they're not stretched, this is an example of a bad one. And 2 of these are, this is the worst. And 2 of these are borderline. You can see through the spring, there's a gap between them. They've been overstretched. So those will not give you even pull on the brakes. You can pass them around.
You have a 5-coil one, is that a rear?
Yes.
Oh, it's a rear, okay.
And on the later brakes, they're all 5 coil.
So you're saying you can't
You already
source
know how
those,
these come in and out, but
you can't source those springs anywhere?
you see them on eBay sometimes, but not very often. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of these brake jobs and a lot of my own cars, so I trust it on my own car, I would trust it on somebody else's car. If they're rusty, crusty, throw them out. If they got spaces between the coils, throw them out because they're overstretched.
Generally like a...
This one, this style, hooking it to the outside is generally a bit easier than trying to hook it on the inside. You can usually get that all in one shot if you're lucky. Yeah, there you go. So that's that style. Also, when you're looking at shoes, if you're looking at used shoes, you look at the lining length. Or if you're putting new shoes on, you don't want to mismatch length of linings from one side of the car to the other, because that's going to give one side pull more than the other, and then you'll be all over. It's kind of things that give these a bad name, is make it mismatched stuff. Also, if they're used, you want to look at the edges, especially at the ends. If they've got rust in there and it's starting to lift the lining, that's no good. There's a lot of original linings. There's a machine that you can use that grinds these to the radius of the drum. And that gives you a good fit to the drum right from the get-go. So you don't have to wait 1,000 miles or so before it finally breaks in. And some of the ones I've seen, the aftermarket, they're not anywhere near round and right out of the package. I've seen a pair where I think 3 wheels were okay, and 1 wheel they were hitting on both edges and not in the middle. So they grind them down. You measure the drum, you set the machine to the diameter of the drum, and they grind them down. It gives you a nice fit inside the drum. That was a little bit too heavy for me to be bringing cross country. And wheel cylinders. I think these are early ones. That's where the difference is going to be on who fits what. Yeah, these are early ones. They fit this style. Like they're all the same thing. Yeah. Well, if you're trying to reuse your original ones, you can take them apart, go in with a brake cylinder hone. If they're pitted like out on the edge here, it's not that big of a concern because that's where the piston sits. That's not where the rubber cup sits. Because the cup is going to be sitting further back, actually like that, inside the wheel cylinder. But if down further, you can feel ridges or rust pits or anything like that, then you could have them re-sleeved or just get new ones and hope for the best. A lot of the aftermarket ones, this hole for the bleeder is drilled in the wrong place. This one is a lower. Sometimes they are so close to the lower steering arm where you can't even get a bleeder screw on them. And a lot of times left to right, we'll have different size bleeder screws. And this is all the Chinese junk that you get today that you're taking a chance on most of the time. So I try to find old stock if I can. If you really got old ones, I think this is Ice, which was a manufacturer way back in the day of aftermarket parts, and they were good stuff. Wagner was another big name. But I know that a lot of the guys that are doing cars nowadays, there ain't a whole lot of original ones left that are still on the road, so they've been sitting around for a number of years. Chances are the wheel cylinder is going to be rusty because they've been running dot free in it, which absorbs water, and it pools at the bottom, and then the bottom of the cylinders is junk. You can send them to various companies to have them re-sleeved in stainless, and then you can get decent kits. They're good forever. Or Hunt Carlisle or eBay.
I know some places sleeve them in brass. You think the stainless is better than the brass, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
stainless is harder. It's not gonna wear like brass will.
Okay.
I don't know which one's more expensive.
Is there any disadvantage? to-
This actually is a new shoe, by the way.
Hey, Don, is there any disadvantage to using silicone brake fluid?
I would use silicone. If you were doing a complete brake job, use silicone.
Top 5.
But you can't just add it, and you really gotta clean the whole system out because the two don't match. Silicone is the best thing you can do for an old brake system. Most of you have probably seen my rusty ass Imperial out there in the parking lot. I did that brake job in 1987. And I pulled the boots back on the wheel cylinders. They still look like brand new. I changed the hoses once and changed the shoe set once. And all that time. And when when I owned Mike Falcone's G, when I put that together, I put silicone in it right from the beginning, and that hasn't been touched since. The only thing, some people have a bad luck with the hydraulic brake light switches, it seems to be hit or miss on the quality of the brake light switches. I had a bunch of good old standard motor parts switches, which I think I only maybe went through 2 or 3 in the 70,000 miles or so I put on that car. So it's, it's hit or miss. 61, I think you could actually get a brake light switch that was on the brake pedal, an electrical switch instead of a hydraulic switch.
Mid-year change.
Yeah,
In 61?
yeah. So you can change that. You could change that over and eliminate it.
Can you use 3 and 4?
If I'm doing a new system, I don't use 3 and 4.
But could you mix it if you had?
Oh, you can use it, sure.
I mean, if you're bleeding brakes or changing the fluid, you can take 4 and throw it in and bleed it with 4 without doing
Yeah.
anything else
Yeah,
to it.
all 3 and 4 and all that are to change.
Okay.
They're all pretty much the same. It's just, Scott 5 is synthetic. It's got a higher boiling point, and it's not compatible with 3 and 4, so that's why you really have to change. You have to clean out the whole system, master cylinder, wheel cylinders, lines. And
Now,
that's
when
the
you
other
say
thing.
Clean out, how do you clean out? With what?
I use brake clean. I'm anal, so I just take the whole system apart and clean them out individually.
How about the lines?
Blow them out with brake clean or alcohol, not kerosene or anything that leaves an oily residue. You don't want that. Brake hoses, always change them. If you just picked up a car that you don't know anything about, the worst thing you can do is try to bleed the brakes and just drive it. Because chances are the rear brake hose, that seems to be the worst one. The internal lining separates, and then when you apply the brakes, maybe you'll get through it, but it can't come back. So now your brakes are applied. A friend of mine's brakes caught fire because of that. They got so hot, I told him not to drive the car on the highway and take back roads, but he took the highway anyway. You know what I'm talking
I know what you're
about.
talking about, I think.
Come on, let's do the name.
You all know who it is.
Yeah.
It's a friend of ours.
That's certainly 59 Sport Suburban. If the passerby hadn't just bought a gallon of water, he probably would have watched the car burn to the ground. So the brake hoses are important. If the front ones are cracked, change them. If your brake lines show evidence of external rust or something, get rid of them. If you've got a fully done system with new lines and everything, there's nothing wrong with a single master cylinder either. As an Imperial's got one on it. Everything I drive has one on it. And as I like to say, if you have a dual, the only thing that's going to help you is to stop after you whack whatever you would try to stop at the first, avoid in the first place. You can pull over and stop. But you can pull over and stop with the emergency brake on a 300 too. But yeah, I mean, your car still has most of the original brake lines. Because that was a rust-free car that sat in the old guy's garage until 1991 when I bought it. But most cars aren't that lucky. So it's good practice to just change them. You can get that copper metallic line now. It's easy to flare, easy to bend.
Copper nickel.
Copper nickel, yeah. That's good stuff. There's not too many places make line sets for our cars. Some used to, but I think some of them are out of business now.
The adjusting tool for the parking brake, is somebody making that?
I don't think
A
so.
little tool?
It's a little bitty spanner about that long. I've got one.
Yeah, is anybody making them now, or you?
I don't think so. That's a good point on parking brakes. There's 2 adjustments for your parking brakes on all the 300s. The first one to do is the drum. You want to adjust the drum until it tightens up until you can barely turn it, then back it off until you can turn it freely. Then you do whatever setup is on the cable. I believe a lot of the early cars have an arrangement right in front of the backing plate for the pocket brake backing plate with nuts and an adjustable setup there. The later ones, like the FGH, have it up at the emergency brake end at the firewall. And that'll give you your pedal push. That's how you adjust how far the pedal will go down. Whereas if you do it the other way around, your parking brake may or may not hold at all. Or it may not, you may get it to the floor and it may not expand enough to really get a good grip on the drum. So that's important
Do you
too.
need that spanner tool you were talking about to adjust the emergency brake, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You
Bob,
can
you
use a
know what
screwdriver.
Ford
You can get a screwdriver or a brake spoon from later brakes.
Yeah.
You can get in behind the cross member, you can get in and do it with that too. It's just easier with the spanner.
Okay.
This is the late
Yeah.
59 and a half to 62.
Oh.
This one is a, right in the first place, right front. I did not have the correct connecting line. This is from 11-inch brakes. The shop manual shows it connected like this. But I believe I have the Master Tech service bulletin up on the bench up there. He shows it with the loop up here. So I don't think it really makes much difference. But when you're bleeding brakes on these, you start with the rear first. You start with the right rear, left rear. Then you start with the right front bottom, not the top. Because you do the bottom first, it fills the line. Then you finish with the top, then you go to the left front bottom, left front top will be the last one to bleed. My procedure, because I do it myself, I got nobody else to help me. I hook up a piece of hose to the bleeder screw, run it into a jar of brake fluid, and hand pump the pedal. Lean out the car, and look under it, try to see the bubbles in the glass jar. Oh, like putting my neck out of joint. But it works. I always get a hard pedal out of it.
Use a longer hose and a bottle close to it.
I usually put good fluid in the bottle first. Unless it's, .5, I don't like to waste, so I may just put crappy shit in there. These ones are easier to take apart too. Let's start with the front. Same thing with the spring. Hold on to it so I don't poke some of the wire. I thought I brought a long screwdriver, which works a lot better, but this works. And on these, all you got is to be familiar to anybody that's done brakes later than 62. It's just the push and quarter turn. And you got a nail that holds the brake shoe on. I believe this one's pretty clean, so you shouldn't get your hands dirty. But this one, I think, is marginal. So I didn't bring my glasses down here, but where it glues on. I think there might be a space of it down and where it's starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's worse because I labeled it as core. But you can see on these, you have 3 flat spots and you've got 3 notches on the shoe. So that tends to stabilize this more than the early ones. There was an improvement because Chrysler kept changing things engineering wise all the time.
So Don, just to be clear, that was a change for 62, they didn't have that in 61, is that correct?
No, 59 and a half to 62 are the same.
It was all the same,
They're all
okay.
called three platform.
Yeah, okay.
If you look on Rock Auto and you're looking to buy brake shoes, they actually do list it differently as 3 platform or single.
Yeah, okay.
You gotta look at the pictures, make sure they're actually accurate. You know, a lot of stuff on Rock Auto isn't exactly accurate. Yeah, somebody in this room just went through all this trouble recently. Taking all this stuff apart. Change wheel cylinders. It's the early style wheel cylinder. Won't fit.
Won't make it fit.
Cast them around, you can visually see the difference in thickness of where that sits over the backing plate. This is much thicker than the early ones, by about a 16th of an inch, I believe.
Don, on the brake adjusters, isn't there leather washers in the back, like dust washers, in between the back and
They
plate?
are rubber washers, thanks for reminding me. It's just a little rubber washer, it goes between the adjusting bolt and the backing plate.
On all of them?
On all of them, it's a dust seal. Mr. Merritt can make thousands of them. That's all that is, those are all brand new ones.
Leather washer?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be leather or rubber?
They're rubber.
I gotta take it apart.
One of the
Thank
main
you.
things that goes wrong with these two is people put a 12 point on them or an open end wrench and they round the hex right off on these. You gotta use a 6 point something. A lot of these are really stiff after being on the car for that long. And this one I can barely do by, it does work.
Can you lube them with anything?
No, because you can't make them go freely because you lose your adjustment. This is your brake adjustment. When you're turning that cam, you're pushing the shoe out against the drum. See, that one's, freely that moves,
Right.
because that follows along with the shoe and the adjuster cam. You can see the edge of it that sits against the cam on the top there. Like I said earlier, when you're putting the springs on, you don't want it out like that. When it's out like that, the spring pressure you put on that, if the cam is if the low spot is down and the high spot is up, that can pull it right out from under it.
Yeah.
Then you got no return spring at all. And they're pretty much a bear to get back into place.
Yep.
We've experienced a couple of broken ones on those as well at times.
Yeah, because just holding it like that. This one is loose enough so you can see it go in and out. As long as they can move, the brake springs don't overcome any friction. And on adjusting the fronts, this would be the inside of the wheel. Going to be sitting, these bolt holes are holding your knuckle on and your steering knob. They're going to sit like that. Wheel cylinders like this pressing on the shoe. Both sides, you adjust them in the direction of tire rotation. You adjust them till you lock the wheel up. Then you back them off just enough so you can turn the wheel freely. Same with the back one. You want it to go in the direction of tire rotation. Same as if you're doing it on the right side. It's always, fronts are always tire rotation. The backs, because there's only one wheel cylinder, are opposite. The one that's facing forward, you adjust with the wheel turning forward, and the one going to the rear, you adjust with the tire going backwards. Put that back
Hey,
together.
Don, on that topic, one of my old mechanic mentors told me that earlier
brakes, the adjustment sequence was different, so some of the mechanics were screwing up which way they turned.
The only ones that were really different were the 55 and under, which had a whole different
Well,
system.
that's what I'm saying. So this guy was an old timer, so he said the old timers were adjusting to like the 55 and unders when they were, the 56s
Yeah.
and up, and that created some problems even when they were relatively new.
Probably, yeah, because the 55s would have had the same adjusters at the top, but the bottom end of the shoes were secured to cam bolts. You had big bolts that went through the backing plates, and you needed a special tool that would go around the spindle with a pointer on it, so you could adjust the heel of the brakes out so that they were close to the drum. And then you had to lock all that stuff down, so those are actually a lot harder to work on than these are. My apologies to the 55 guys, I don't have anything for that. What else? I left my crib notes in the room. You got any more questions?
Yeah. With your demo, your color-coded demo that was sitting back here,
Yeah.
looked like you had two different springs, one with a
One's wrong, one's
3-turn
right.
and one with a 4-turn. Okay, 4
We'll
coil.
bring that, if somebody wants to bring that up here, I'll show that too. Because this was a shop demo. This was from a brake shop, this setup here. Thanks. And this is also, right, yeah. No, this is a left front. Yeah, this one is correct. This is 11-inch brakes. This one is wrong. This is a 4-coil and it's loose. So both of them should have been like that one.
I'm used to that stuff.
When I first got the G, the brakes really sucked. Even after I'd done all the hydraulics and stuff, the thing would yank to the left-hand side. I found the name of this brake shop about an hour from my house. And they had a brake shoe arcing machine, and they had a drum turning machine. They also had a grinding attachment on the drum turning machine. Because these drums, they get overheated, they got hot spots in them. And they're hard spots. You can't turn them out. Carbide will just skip right over them. Well, back in the old day, they had a big electric motor attachment that connected to the brake lathe. And it had its own motor with a little grinding wheel, and they run it in just like the cutter, and then they grind those hard spots out. So you get a round drum again, and that's what we ended up doing with the drums on the G. They arced them to the diameter of the drums, and they carved beautiful brakes after that. So that's quite important. There's really not much difference between the 11s.
In a pulsing?
Yeah.
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 Don, where the brake shoes meet the backing plates, is there any lubrication that you have to put on the
Yes.
backing plate?
I use disc brake lubricant. That's just, comes in a tube like a little bit of grease tub. Use a little bit on all the contact points. And use a little bit inside the piston for the, that goes on the shoe. A little bit right here, that's a contact. That is the adjuster. So that sits like that. The heel of the shoe sits on this part. So it's going to slide like that. If it's got a little bit of the black disc brake grease on it, it helps it out a lot. The thing to look for that you reminded me of when you're looking at the shoes is this arm here. I've seen them where it was bent in. So it should be pretty much straight down like that. If it's bent, getting a set of shoes if you're reusing an old set. And I got my little rubber O-ring so I can put this back together.
Yeah, it's just the rubber O-ring that holds it. It's right in your pants.
Yeah, figures Alan lost it.
Go grab it.
Yeah.
I know where you can get some of that.
Thank you.
Well, the wheel cylinder's still floating around somewhere too. Another set of wheel cylinders.
Getting passed around.
You want them? We're fisting them around.
Have some up front.
Yeah, make a quick pass. Somebody else got questions? Or something else I forgot?
If you do have these wheel cylinders, the one-way cylinders done, and they're frozen up a little bit, is there ways to get the pistons out of there safely without, you know,
Rear
destroying them?
ones, yeah, you just press them out
Right.
because it goes through.
But how about the front ones?
Front ones, if you push them in first, get them freed up, scrape the rust or whatever it is that's inside the bore out, then you can usually use compressed air to blow them out. Or you can always hook it up to a brake system, use hydraulics, and that'll certainly push it out.
What would be the main reason for brakes lock, just all of a sudden locking up, like when, just say early in the morning or something like that? Is that mainly adjustment? Apart from maybe if there was some contamination there or maybe a bad drum?
Usually, well, I have a brake lay, so I put drums on that and see if they're round.
Oh, yeah.
If they're round, I don't turn them. Because you only got so much life on these things. If they're good, they're not scored, you didn't have the shoes go down the metal or something and gouge them all to hell, and leave them alone and put new shoes, scuff them up some, clean them up and reuse them.
How much over the 12 can they go before you got a set inside?
60,000 is
60?
pretty much standard.
Okay.
I've run into them that were 120 on one side and 40 on the other side.
What's the matter with
Why
the
does my
brakes?
car pull?
Yeah.
Gee, I don't know. And trying to find somebody that can turn the rears is tough too, because that's old style tooling. Most of the brake blades nowadays, the spindle is not small enough to go through that hole. A lot of the Amco machines had a second spindle that was small enough to go through the tapered axle hole in the hub. Unfortunately, a lot of those shops are just dying out.
And you don't have one in your shop either?
Nope.
You don't have a turning lathe in that?
I have a brake lathe, but I do not have that one. I don't have a spindle that could do the rears. I can do the fronts, but I don't have the grinder either.
We gotta find you one? We gotta find you one?
I got a grinder.
Oh, I've got the arc grinder.
Oh, yeah. it's a
Yeah.
Dark grinder.
I just don't have the grinding attachment for the brake lathe to grind out the hard spots.
No. If you find one, I've got some drums with hot spots.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the guy that gave me this is long out of business. Some of the springs, they'll have, the bottom one will have just a hole in it. And the top one has the quarter inch, well, the little quarter turn, I should say, notch in it. You know, this probably costs some extra to make or took an extra machining operation, so most of the later ones just have 2 of these. It just slides over there and goes to the bottom anyway.
So you come to my place and show me how it's done? I'm a slow learner too.
You pay the airfare. Oh, this is easier than rebuilding transmissions, anyway.
Can I pay for your gas to come up?
I don't like driving that far.
You worked at Chrysler dealership, what did you do? Everything?
I never worked at a Chrysler dealer.
I thought you did.
Nope. I worked at transmission shops and I worked at regular service places and I was a machinist for 20-something years.
Yeah, okay, all right, no, I got the idea that you were also at a Chrysler dealer.
And most of what I know, I taught myself. I like to read.
Yeah.
That's about how far in you want that loop when you're trying to put the spring on.
Make it look easy.
So Don, if you're not using .5, do you have an opinion on how often you should flush through at .3 or
Supposed to
4?
change it every couple of years. That'll give you a good, it'll keep good fresh fluid in there and keep everything from getting water and rusting everything out.
Do storage conditions make a difference, say if you're in a constant storage environment?
If it's-
Will it suck less water in?
No, because there's always some moisture in the air, no matter where you are.
I'll keep it air conditioned too.
Yeah, it's probably pretty well good. You don't think you have to worry about it too much.
Yeah.
I seem to have lost the spring. There it is. Some people have issues with cars sitting over the winter and come springtime, they go to put the brakes on, they get all kinds of grindy, rusty sounding sounds. I think it all depends on where you live and where you store it. Because in my neck of the woods, it's usually pretty dry. It's not that humid. And I've stored most of my cars, they sit outside all winter. And when I had the eaves set outside under a cover and I get it in the spring and back it out, stop it, and no pulling, no funny noises, no nothing. John Grady has issues with all his cars, it seems.
Yeah.
Don, is there any advantage when they sit over the winter like that? Is there any advantage to go out and pump in the brakes periodically to exercise those cylinders so they're just not sitting, or does that make any difference?
Not really. I don't really think it makes much difference.
Okay.
What's good for these cars, what's good for all of them is driving them. Getting everything up to operating temperature. You know, starting them up, running them in the garage isn't any good for it. Because it does not get warm enough to burn all the moisture and stuff out of the crankcase. You gotta really drive it down the road 15, 20 minutes get everything warm enough. Long-term storage isn't good for them. Anything else?
Yeah, Don, when you got a brake drum and it's 60 over, or maybe more even, it's got some hot spots. There's a shop near me in the far northwest Chicago suburbs that relines the drums.
We were talking about that earlier, and thanks for bringing that up, 'cause I heard about that.
I actually did that on my F drums, so it's expensive.
I imagine
And
it
they
is.
arced it, they relined the shoes and they arced it all, sent it all back, so.
Do they bore it and put a lining in it, or do they spray weld it and return it, you know?
The latter, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got like a little,
That'd be a pretty thin liner, because there's not that much meat on those drums. Whatever could save them, that works.
I think they do a lot of big truck stuff too, so.
Yeah, because that would be, it makes sense, because that'd be a lot more expensive to have to buy a drum.
Right.
But if they can do it to the smaller drums, that's a good way to save them, because they're not exactly
Yeah.
falling out of trees.
I couldn't find any. And the parts car I got, the drums on it were mediocre too, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a couple left from 57 to 9, but I think I'm all out of mid 59 to 62 style. Because there are two styles of drums.
Yeah, bottom line, don't throw any drums away, even if they're over spec. 'Cause
No.
maybe you have to get them lined eventually, so.
And do not, under any circumstances, separate the drum from the hub. Chrysler made them as one piece assembly for a reason. You do that and buy an aftermarket drum, all you gotta get is brake pulsation, because they're not located correctly. I know there's guys and companies out there that sell them, but I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. I'd run 200,000 over drums before I put one of those on a car.
That's actually right on Facebook. People do that all the time, separate them, and it's just like, no. But yeah, they just keep doing it, and they keep doing it. It's
Yeah.
easier to access.
I think Cantor sells drums like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we got.
Nobody else has one. Can you think of any common mistakes that you haven't already talked about that people tend to make, or that you have seen results of?
Mismatched stuff from side to side. I've seen that. I've seen different springs on one side of the car to the other side of the car. Then you're gonna get a pull. One drum that's way bigger than the other one. That's always gonna give you a pull. Bad alignment parts are also, bad front end parts are gonna give you a pull. Or even tires. So if you fixed everything else and you still got a pull, switch the tires from left to right and see if it goes away. Some of the quality on the repro white whites is questionable. So that could always be an issue. You can't really mismatch the wheel cylinders because they won't, you can't install them because they only fit one way, and they only make, these are all 1.125". They're 1.125" all the way around. There's no different diameters of the pucks for them.
The springs that are in the center plane that you mentioned, you want to get them in before you hook the spring on so that you don't pull them out from under the
Yeah,
cam.
they should be
Is-
more towards the center.
Is there any other
Like
with
this one, and you can see that one is fairly well in, depending on how worn the drum is. It may be out further. This one's out a little bit further, but it's not too far. It's still hooked well behind the cam.
When those are in that position, there's no friction at all on the drum.
Depending on the size of the drum, usually, back them off. They could be in any position between all the way in and all the way out, depending on how thick the lining is and how thick the drum is, how far oversized the drum is.
Now, what does the brake booster or the bellow brakes actually do to the cylinders or pushing?
The power brakes you
Yeah.
talk about?
Mhm.
The booster, most of our cars until 62 pushes on the brake pedal itself. Up at the top of the brake pedal, where the booster goes through the firewall, has a fork that pushes on a rod at the top of the brake pedal. Brake pedal, say it pivots down here, that fork is up here somewhere. So that's what's giving you your power. It's not connected to the master cylinder or anything. It's just giving you more pressure on the pedal. And there is an adjustment on that up at top too. We talked about that earlier with your problem. Because that pushes on a little button that's on the end of the booster setup. I think when it's relaxed, the button is pushed in, so there's no vacuum going to anything. As soon as you apply the brakes and that comes out, that's when it starts to activate. And you can test them off the car, a booster, but you got to have a pretty strong vacuum pump. You can't do it with a handheld one. I got one out of an old air conditioning machine that I used to test it. I wired it up so I can jump start that thing and make it work.
How many negative PSI do you look for in that?
Hmm?
How many negative PSI are you looking for in that?
I'm just looking for it to work
Yeah.
and not hiss out somewhere.
Yeah.
If it pushes the rod out and doesn't make any other hissing sounds anywhere, then it's a good build.
Yeah.
At the 57, 58, 59 used the bellows style, which is actually a little easier to rebuild, I think, than the later ones.
I could do it, so it was easy.
It must be. But, yeah, I like to amuse people at cruise nights with that. Say, hey, what's that thing under the hood? You go, yeah, watch. And I get in the car and hit the brake pedal. It's go.
Bit of advice, people always complain about when you've got the bellows tight like that, how hard it is to get at your master cylinder
Yeah.
to refill it or check it or whatever. I just bent a couple of steel U's,
Mhm.
and I have somebody else hit the brake pedal while the engine's running,
Yeah.
suck the thing up, just drop these things over it, and shut off the engine. Now the bellows will stay.
It's half
pulled up.
exposed at that point.
Yeah, right, and you can get at it so easily at that point.
I've done it without doing that. I use a gear wrench,
Yeah,
7/16 on it.
yeah,
My hands are fairly small. I can get in there and feel where the thing is and get it off. And I don't take the cover off completely. I just put it off to the side a little. And I've got a funnel at the top is only about that big around and it's about that long.
yeah,
You can put that in at an angle
yeah,
next to the bellows
Yeah.
or next to the oval can, and as long as you can see down in there, it's fairly easy. Ram cars are kind of an issue, but you just got to be careful, especially if you spill brake fluid all over your fresh paint.
yeah, right.
Unless you have dot 5, then you don't have to worry about it.
Another reason to use that.
Yeah.
I picked up a needle, syringe this big, attached it with a little hose,
Yeah.
and just squish it right in.
Yeah.
I think you have to be careful about aerating the fluid using some means like that though, too.
And dot 5, it is more, it's more of a problem.
Right.
As I know some people I've seen bleed brakes, they get on the pedal and it's like, they jump on that thing as fast as they can. And that's a good way to never get a pedal out of dot 5. Because you create air bubbles everywhere. It's slow and easy. Like I said about hand pumping it, I'm doing it by hand. So I'm under the car looking for the bubbles coming into the fluid.
I apologize for missing the first part of it. We're late coming from dinner, but do you recommend going to 5 rather than 4?
5 rather than 4 or 3.
Yeah.
It lasts longer. And you hear the story about my Imperial. I've had it 46 years. I did the brakes in 1987. I've changed the fluid once.
Yeah.
And I've checked the wheel cylinders in the last year or two, and they still look brand new. And the car sits outside all year long,
And that's on
but
5?
I run it regular,
And that's running on 5?
yes.
Yeah.
Mike's G is running on 5 also,
Yeah.
and those are all the same components unless you change something.
I haven't touched that. Good.
Brake light switch maybe?
Yeah, that I put the electric switch in it.
Oh, that's right, yeah, you did the conversion.
Any particular brand of Dot 5 that you use?
No, they're all standardized. They all gotta do the same thing. It's like engine oils and trans fluid, they're all set to a standard.
Actually, a little hard to find.
Yeah, it's not at every store.
Expensive too, but worth it.
Is the,
It's expensive, but it's worth it in the long run.
Every now and then on eBay, a guy will be selling gallons of mil spec Dot 5,
Mm,
and it's fairly reasonable. I get $100 a gallon.
yeah. How much do you need?
Well,
I think I'm still working on the first can.
Does Dot 5 have a higher boiling point than that?
It does,
Okay.
yeah.
Do not use 5.1.
Nope.
No, that's synthetic or something or other.
It's not even compatible
It's
with
not the
that.
same thing.
Right.
It's just straight 5.
Now, once you open a 5 bottle or can, whatever, can you store it or you just,
I don't-
once you use it, toss it?
I don't buy that stuff. I put the cap back on and put it back on the shelf.
The Dot 5 can.
Same thing with regular brake fluid. They, oh, once it's open, you're gonna use it all. Give me a break.
That's true.
Put the cover back on.
That's true, the Dot 3 is one you should probably,
Yeah.
Dot 5.
It still looks the same when you take the cap off and pour it out. It still works.
On 3 and 4?
Yeah.
It's gonna have a
I
cap on
I
it.
keep it on the shelf for years. I don't use it all that much. It still works good.
It's gonna be open to the air when it's in the master anyway.
Hmm?
It's gonna be open to the air when it's in the master cylinder anyway.
Yeah, right.
It's like-
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you still can get it in storage. If you get a little bit of humidity in the air, it's still gonna be able to get it through the vent in the master.
Is there any?
And on masters too, they're, the junk that's on the market nowadays is not made in this country. They do not seem to know how to make a pipe thread. Usually the plug on the bottom, anybody that's tried to change one, the plug always leaks because the threads are not compatible with an American pipe thread for some reason. No matter how much goop you put on it, it still leaks. So if at all possible, rebuild an original Wagner or Ice or one of the name brands. But virtually everybody that sells wheel cylinders, masters and stuff comes from China. Everything Napa sells is China.
How effective are the I don't know if they're called bladders or what, but at the top of your master, that get sucked down, instead of letting air in, they're just letting it in on top of that bladder. Are they effective?
It's really not even a bladder on the early ones, it's just a gasket.
True.
It
Yeah,
just
because
seals
it
the cover.
didn't suck down, yeah.
Not really, because it gets around I believe it gets around the bolt itself.
Okay, and is there any way to seal that up? No?
If it's quarter inch below the top, it shouldn't leak.
Yeah.
If the gas is good and the cap is tightened and the cap is not warped or something like that, it shouldn't be an issue. Sometimes masters will also leak out the back. And if you've got a later power brake car, it goes into the booster.
Yeah.
And Dot 5 is a lot better for the rubber in the booster than 3 and 4 is.
Right.
Imperial does go through some, but I think that's where it goes.
So your Imperial's your everyday driver?
In the summertime, yeah,
You use
mostly.
Dot 5 in that?
Yeah, yep, since 1987.
Okay.
Yep. I don't put it away in the winter. It hardly snows anymore anyway, so it's If the roads are dry, they don't have salt on it, I take it out. It's more fun to drive than my truck.
Don? One other thing, I've heard a lot of people, different times in the past say, I've got center plane brakes, I go to hit the brakes, front right is grabby, it pulls to the right, front left is grabby, it pulls to the left. They have these problems. You've covered some of the things that would cause that. Are there any other things you can think of besides, say, leaky brake fluid that has gotten in there? Is there anything else that comes to mind that could help somebody start to diagnose why they have a hard pull?
Adjustments,
Yeah, adjustments.
different kinds
Especially
of
with
brake
new shoes.
springs that I went over.
Yeah.
How about a situation that just suddenly appears? I guess it could-
Separation of lining.
Yeah.
Lining could separate from the metal on the shoe. Yeah, this one's new and doesn't show any of that, but I was coming home from a cruise night with the E one time, and I put old shoes on it. All of a sudden the thing yanked to the right. Good thing nobody was in the other lane. But I managed to get it home. The wheel was pretty warm by the time I got it home. This whole lining had come off the metal and wrapped halfway around the other shoe. Well, I said, yeah, maybe I better look at a newer looking shoe for my stockpile. Yeah,
Took the
I
brake
mean,
drum off and the whole shoe falls off.
some of these
And it was a new shoe.
are older than others. Some of them are old shoes and they got some separation to them, but it usually starts at the ends where rust can get under them. So if you got anything with rust like that, like I said at the beginning too, it's important that the linings are the same length on all of them.
Okay.
So later Bendix styles, the front shoe is shorter than the rear shoe. That's not the case with these, because they got two wheel cylinders acting on them, so they need to be the same diameter. Everything needs to be doing the right thing at the right time.
We were driving across the country, and when we got to Missouri, blame Jim. We had this problem start, and stopped and jacked the front of the car up with the bump jack from the trunk from the, using the bumper, pulled the wheel, pulled the drum off, couldn't see anything wrong. Nothing. The brake linings looked like they were nice and solid. Everything looked good in there.
Right.
They were starting to get down a little,
Weren't even.
thickness wise, but it just sort of appeared. Put it back together. We limped home. Haven't messed with it yet, but now knowing what you have talked about, I will look at the springs too to make sure that there isn't an issue
Yeah,
with the
if
springs.
you got one that looks like one of those ones I passed around that's overstretched.
But
That
this-
one's gonna wanna grab first because doesn't have enough tension. Chrysler actually had a spec for those springs. It was like a heavy-duty fish scale. You'd hook it on the end of the shoe and pull on it, and have to be so many pounds before the shoe came off of its resting spot. And that's why they went to Bendix brakes, because the normal mechanics could work on them and they were much more reliable.
Is it possible that somebody could put that together, not knowing that one of the springs is marginal with the cam, and that while you're driving it could yank out from under it if it's not adjusted properly?
You would have seen that when you pulled it
Okay.
off, because the spring would be hanging there.
Yeah, okay.
It wouldn't be holding on to anything anymore. And you would have to have drums in the 120 neighborhood before they could actually probably get out that far. It's generally if you've had it apart and you're spinning the adjusters to get it freed up or something, and they end up in the spot where it comes out the furthest. But generally, if you got rusty ones and you want to clean them up, probably evaporust is the best way to go. Because if you try to glass beat them, you're gonna get crap all inside there that you'll have a hard time getting all the little particles out. But you got some nice fresh evaporust that'll take care of all that. You just have to make sure too that those adjusters are relatively hard to turn. Because if they're free spinning, they can back off every time you hit the brakes, and then your pedal's going way down.
The other thing that-
The adjusters on these will also really affect your pedal height. Not like some of the later stuff, if they're adjusted wrong, that can, just a little bit of an adjustment can have a big effect on your pedal height.
Okay. And what about a front brake hose? If you have, let's say the car pulls to the right, you have a problem with your left front brake hose, maybe where it's not.
If it can't flow through that one.
It can't force through,
then
and
it's
so the
gonna pull
right
to
is
one
working
side
and the left
also.
isn't. Yeah.
Yep.
We had that happen on one of Bob Merritt's cars where the brake locked up, and it was just like, why is the brake locked up? It was because the brake hose inside it collapsed, and then after like an hour, the brake came off. I was like, what's going on? It was.
It's, like I said earlier, that's more common on the backs. I think the last 2 brake jobs I did, the rear hose was collapsed on both of them. You couldn't blow air through it. They're cheap enough, and there's companies that you can find that sell made in America ones. I've run into Chinese ones where they are threaded deep enough, and no matter how much you tighten that steel line, it ain't never gonna stop leaking.
And they're too short, too.
That too, lengths are wrong. The newer ones are smaller diameter, even the good ones, but they're still, they're
You can't get the clip underneath to hold it, in the frame
Yeah.
tab.
yeah. Yep. You always gotta make sure you run your brake lines away from anything that could rub on them, like shock absorbers and stuff like that too. If you've got a pinhole in one, the first time it's gonna show up is if you have to panic stop it or it's behind somebody. I know that from experience too.
I had a question on the wheel cylinders. So a little while ago, you were talking about if they're bad enough, if you got enough scoring inside the wheel cylinders, that you might be able to get it re-sleeved. Is there a good rule of thumb, or how bad is too bad before you know that?
Depends on where it is. If there's anything at all in the area that where the cup runs, then you really can't use it. It'll leak by that.
Because I noticed the one that was being passed around, when it seems smooth near the top, but as you got to the very bottom, it's very, very
That's a
rough.
bad example. There's one or two of them in that group that you could probably put a kid in and it would be okay. But yeah, that one was, one of the others was rusty up near the end of the aluminum or steel puck
Yeah.
goes. And I didn't have any extras of that for an example.
Okay.
But you can see them in here anyway. That's what they look like. You just slide back and forth. Hydraulics push on that end, push that out, pushes the brake shoe out.
Thank you.
If you
Thanks,
bought
Don.
a car with, that had been converted to disc, would you,
We're not even going there.
would you convert it back?
I would, yeah. I'd get rid of that shit as soon as it took out in the driveway.
Okay, all right.
Some people have good luck with it. I don't like them at all. I think that the drum brake system is fine if you drive like a human being. The road test of the day. The road test of the day were abusive. You do not panic stop a car 6 times in a row for 60 or 70 miles an hour and expect the brakes not to heat up.
No, absolutely.
If you drive like that all the time, you need to go back to driving school.
Or maybe your police.
That'd be great.
Before you adjourn, I have a gadget here that a lot of you might be interested in. It's called a Steelman. Anyone here with a Steelman chassis here? Show it when you're done. I'll show it to you in
Bring it up.
60 seconds. Okay, thank you. I had a pinion bearing go. It was the toughest thing to diagnose until I got this. I never heard of it, but I found it on eBay. The dogs had a field day with it last night. He was sitting on the couch. with the earplugs in, he's got the clips all over the place, and they wanted to bat him away. He says he was hooking it up to test it. So what this has is like a battery charger clip, but it has an acoustical sensor in it, like a microphone or a piezo sensor. And I had this howl in my Lexus that I was forever finding. So this comes with 6 12-foot cords. The later, more expensive ones are Bluetooth and wireless. It has 6 inputs. While you are driving, you can put on the earphones. But I had 4 of them clipped to my wheel bearing housings. And all of turn corners, all of them were quiet, it wasn't the wheel bearings. And I say, darn it, because those are easy. Then I said, okay, where in the drivetrain? It had an intermediate, 2 intermediate bearings. It's all-wheel drive. Transmission, a lot of it going to the front. The front I weighted on because of the splash of the back. I clip it on the 2 intermediate bearings. Switch to channel A. Pretty quiet. Channel B, I got this. I said, that's it. So I pulled the drive shaft. I can't walk, but I can pull the drive shaft. But the rear bearing spun okay. I said, that one's okay. Then I clipped it on the differential housing by the pinion bearing, and there's a little web on the casting, clip it to that. And I got up to about 5 miles an hour, then, and that was it. So after I was done, I jacked it up and fixed it so I could spin one wheel. And I could not get a noise from the sensor unless I was driving and there was a load on it,
Right.
and then it howled. So in this particular case, these things were designed to go on chassis clunks. Maybe you had a sway bar bushing or a shock absorber or a million things that could rattle, that when you jack them up, the springs tighten things, you don't find it. But when you're driving, this is a device that'll do that. And again, all you do is put those on, plug in the spurt, 6 channels, up to 6 sensors. So from the differential, it went above the exhaust pipe so it wouldn't cook the wire, through my back window, up to the tunnel, into this. So I'm tuning it, and you can listen up to 6 different things. I paid like $60 for this on eBay. Now I have to rebuild I think it was cheap because I have to rebuild the electrical connectors because it's had some use. But that saved me a lot of problems. So it's called a Steelman chassis ear. So
It'd be good to find
I'll be around with
those elusive squeaks coming out of your front suspension somewhere too.
And then I had another,
Yeah.
I didn't bring the other probe, but this is one that you could put on it, and it had a dB, decibel meter. So you could probe from and this would be good too for a power steering pump, an alternator, or all the little air conditioning, all the little things that might make noise. But it really saved me a lot of work. Unfortunately, it's on a all-wheel drive Lexus. Where to change the differential, you have to pull the bearing housings and independent rear suspension. So. But by finding it, to narrowing it down to that one bearing, it really saved me a tremendous amount of time.
What's the name again?
Steelman, Steelman. I'll have this with me for the rest of till Sunday morning when Rob and I drive out. And if you have a car out there that's finding it, I could bring it out and we'll hook it to something. You could hear what maybe a good one or a noisy one sounds like. So that's the gadget.
Nice.
You could also look under YouTube videos. Just put Steelman chassis. You won't get a weightlifter, I don't think. But I found probably 2 or 3 of these at the time that were on sale, and the Bluetooth ones are a couple $100. But I was also thinking when I get the noise out of the connectors that what I used to do with other car clubs, we would loan special tools. So if there's somebody with a big problem, this thing's just, once I fix my pinion bearing, this thing's just gonna sit in the garage and for years. So give me a holler if there's something that is mysterious with your car, you want to try something.
Thank you.
And on the subject of tools that are good to have, Borscope, they've come down in price, so they're very affordable. And in the case of the J, we lived outside for quite a while. And so they've got some critter nests inside the rocker panels. You pull off, there's a plastic plug on the end, and there's another plastic plug on the front on the vertical side. You can stick that thing in there, because you can blow it out with an air hose all you want. There may still be junk in there. But if you stick that thing in there and you look on the screen and say, oh yeah, I missed a few spots, you can keep going back in there until you can get all the crap out. You can also look down your cylinders to see if you got open burnt valves, scored cylinders, hole in your piston, whatever. You got a million and one uses, gas tanks.
Doesn't work good on a flathead.
Probably not.
I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get it down in the cylinder. I took the spark plug down.
No, I think you figured that out already.
Wait a minute, isn't there supposed to be a piston under this?
All right, that's all the questions. Thanks everybody for
Thank you.
coming to listen.
This is better?
Depending on which way you align that thing, it's easier one way than the other way.
Oh, wait, overstretch?
One way, every time you push on it, it tries to send you off in a
Just
different
barely
direction.
sends
And
through.
it's just,
Turn it
yeah,
180.
Oh, that one
tight
too.
one.
I have a 58. I have a 58. It's been changed to like a B-body axle.
And then also the difference of this.
The ones on the G are slightly different than these. These are the earlier, these are up to, these are 57
No,
and 9.
it looks
It's
just
very
like
similar.
this.
It's something that's
No,
different.
no, this is the incorrect one.
Oh, you have this style.
This is the correct one for this. This is an older model.
You'll have this
This
style.
goes on a 61. This one. That's earlier. But you see how this is this? Because this is a, this should be tight like this. You can't even move that sucker.
So the earlier type should have.
Right, but the 60, right, the 60,
You also gotta have these. You're gonna have these.
You would have that.
You're gonna have these springs and not.
not on a 61.
No?
No.
Oh, I thought they did.
No.
Do you have them still?
Yeah.
For some reason I thought they were these.
No, I think he said it went up to 59, and I think they switched back to that. Mine don't have these.